Yes, you can be fired for your social media posts about Charlie Kirk or anything else. Let's be very clear. No, that is not infringing on your First Amendment right. Both of those things can be true. 6:05, good morning. It is good to be here on a Tuesday on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. You are seeing some of these stories in national media. Wall Street Journal writing in a headline piece late last night, workers are getting fired over the posts mocking Charlie Kirk's death. My first response to that is good. Not because I don't think people deserve free speech. I guess if you want to have your evil on display on social media, that's your prerogative. It doesn't give you the right to be employed by a certain employer. The employer is allowed to make the decision as to whether or not they want somebody with the hate that you have in your heart in their workplace. That's exactly what they're allowed to do. And J.D. Vance, who was hosting the Charlie Kirk show yesterday in honor of his late friend, said this.
So when you see someone celebrating Charlie's murder, call them out. And hell, call their employer. We don't believe in political violence, but we do believe in civility. And there is no civility in the celebration of political assassination. Get involved, get involved, get involved. It's the best way to honor Charlie's legacy.
That was J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, yesterday on the Charlie Kirk show, doing a guest hosting spot. And he's absolutely right. Now, I don't want the government getting involved. Charlie was saying that, or J.D. was saying that as a friend of Charlie's. He was not saying that this administration, he was not saying that federal law enforcement should be going after employees or going after companies. That's not their role. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, went there last night. She was on Sean Hannity's show and said that employers had an obligation to get rid of such workers. Well, I don't agree with that. And I don't think the head of the DOJ should be saying things like that. The private sector and private sector employees are allowed to decide who they want to hire and fire. Now, if they have a double standard going on, right, if they are specifically firing people of one political persuasion based on things they say on social media and not the other, maybe you've got some kind of a case there. But outside of that, I don't really want to hear from people in the federal government on what private businesses should do. But the pressure's ramping up on private businesses, and that's a good thing. Because if you're going to bring some level of moral fabric back to the country, back to our workplaces, back to our discourse, it can start in the workplace with employers being bold and brave and saying, it's not about what the executive's political beliefs are. It's not about what the mid-manager's political beliefs are. It's about the fact that we will not employ people who dance on the grave of one of their political opponents. We will not have that in our workplace. We will not have that level of moral rot in our workspace. We're not going to do it. Whether it's Microsoft or Office Depot or anybody else on a local level, school districts who are dealing with this, we are not going to allow it, and good for them. And that's an important first step here in this conversation of healing. If we can actually get to a place where there is some level of healing, where there is some level of unification, people have to be held accountable. And yes, it can happen, as you heard J.D. Vance say, from friends, from family. But people that are that morally bankrupt, who celebrate the death of somebody who they didn't agree with politically, sometimes they need that, figuratively speaking, slap across the face. And losing a job is certainly one way to go about potentially getting that slap across the face that some people desperately need. So this needs to happen. I mean, if you owned a business, and many of you do listening right now, you wouldn't tolerate this, and nor should you. You wouldn't sit there and say, I know, it's just a dumb social media post. You would say, whether you agreed with Charlie Kirk or not, I believe most of you to be very good people who would say, you know what, I am not tolerating this. Because it's not somebody that you would want making decisions for your company anyway. What does that say about their judgment? You want that person making decisions that could impact tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in revenue for your company? No way. So you may have seen some of these videos on social media going viral of different individuals talking about how they got fired over their social media posts about Charlie Kirk. Here's some of what was circulating on social media the last 24 hours.
I was just fired from my job.
So I've lost my job. I got called into the office yesterday and told me that they could either fire me or I could put a resignation in, but that would look better. But they fired me, or they're getting rid of me because of my TikTok. Somebody screenshot a lot of my TikToks, and
oh boy, say a prayer, because I don't know where else she's going to work. I mean, maybe they realized they had a dope on their hands listening to her talk back on that one. My goodness. But I know some of you are bringing this up on the text line as well. Pete, good morning. I agree there's freedom of speech, but there's also consequences, so choose wisely. However, what I find truly alarming is the people that are being called out in positions where they are involved in children's lives, like some of the teachers, counselors, and others that I've seen. That's true. There has been, unfortunately, some of that. No doubt about it. But there also have been some false accusations, and this is where you have to be careful. There was a woman named Cynthia Rayberg, an associate principal from a Wisconsin elementary school, who found out her staff photo had been inaccurately posted on X, along with a social media post celebrating Kirk's death. See, now with AI, this stuff can just show up, and you can basically create these photographs. If you're a student and you don't like your teacher and you want to get them fired, you could make something up like this. So you've got to be careful. The Cynthia Rayberg had her photo showed on social media by Ryan Fournier, a conservative activist. He had to then take that down on Sunday night, days after the rumor began circulating. So there are things out there that you have to be careful what you're looking at and what you see, because there's too much of this AI-generated fake stuff going on. But then you also have Ty Masterson, who is the Kansas Senate president. And he has called out Brianna Wasser, an employee at KU, where she posted on social media, according to multiple reports, that Charlie is better in the ground as worm food than up here preaching that murdered children are a necessary sacrifice for Second Amendment rights. Brianna Wasser, an accessible print coordinator at the University of Kansas, is reported to have posted that on social media in the last few days. And Ty Masterson, the Kansas Senate president, who also is running for office, is sharing that on his X, and I just reposted it myself, so you can take a look at that. But yes, these are important decisions that, whether it's university presidents, CEOs, small business owners, all need to be making right now. What level of hate are you willing to put up with in your workplace? To be clear, I believe the answer should be zero. It should not be tolerated. And small business owners and managers, many of you around Kansas City, understand that, agree with that. And I'll just add this. Your other employees are watching. This is one of those decisions that could determine what your workplace looks like for years to come. If you do not take action against vile people who are celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, you could potentially set your company back years, because everybody else knows and everybody else is watching. Coming up on KCMO Talk Radio, the Kansas City Star has made a big endorsement in what is the political story of the fall here in Kansas City. Where do you think they went? We'll tell you next on KCMO. I almost thought the Kansas City Star might get it right. But no, they couldn't help themselves, could they? The Kansas City Star yesterday put out its recommendation on whether or not to recall Frank White for Jackson County Executive. And I know since none of you read it, you are hearing this for the first time. The Kansas City Star recommended that you not recall Frank White.
God save the Queen, man.
Yep. That was the recommendation of the Kansas City Star editorial board. I thought they might be like a broken clock, John, and get it right at least twice a day, but nope, they couldn't do it.
Knock me over with a feather.
They write here, this may come as a surprise to some voters that we think the answer to recalling Frank White should be no. We have been highly critical of White's actions as county executive. Indeed, in the 2022 general election, we endorsed his Republican opponent. We said then, and we still believe, the county executive's job is essential across a range of issues. They go on to write here, recalling a duly elected public official should be reserved for the most egregious behavior, proven illegality, gross negligence, malfeasance in office. In politics, recall and its cousin impeachment are the ultimate punishments. Frank White has done a lot of things wrong, but nothing that rises to the level of premature removal from office. Voters should vote no on the recall. All right, stop. Just stop.
I'm getting pissed now.
Stop. Maybe they missed it last week when Frank White sat down with KCTV5. And Frank White did this interview with KCTV5, and what did he say? Well, he admitted he didn't know how many meetings he had attended, but KCTV5 called him out for attending one meeting this entire year. Here's what it sounded like.
So I asked the county clerk, how many meetings have you attended so far this year? And she says you've been to 1 out of 34 present here in the building. Where have you been during those meetings?
I don't think that's accurate.
We double-checked. These meeting minutes show White has only attended one meeting this entire year. Meeting video shows his seat empty, with a staff member usually speaking on his office's behalf.
The guy's been at one meeting this year. If that is not the very definition of gross negligence that the Kansas City Star says requires you to get recalled, then I don't know what is, John.
I thought I heard 3 criteria listed, and I checked off 2 of them.
Yeah. Malfeasance, gross negligence, and illegality.
No illegality that we know of.
Not yet.
No, but
That's
the
true.
other 2.
Absolutely on the other 2.
So you know what this tells us? Nobody down there at the paper lives in Kansas City.
Well, yeah.
Or in Jackson County.
Apparently not.
Didn't get any firsthand taste of Frank's business.
That's true. So they write here in the Kansas City Star, to be clear, that White has been a poor county executive. He deserves at least some blame for the botched negotiation with the 2 professional sports franchises. The new county jail should have been finished a long time ago. The county executive engaged in fruitless arguments over federal COVID-19 relief funds. And much of Jackson County is still howling about haphazard property assessment processes, which White failed to fix. Yeah, outside of that, How was your day, Mrs. Lincoln? How was the play?
You consider your readers howling.
They can't afford to stay in their houses, some of these people.
How about complaining, protesting?
Yep.
Howling,
yes. But voters, writes the Kansas City Star, should also be fair-minded. Look in the mirror. Voters should be fair-minded. High property appraisals are a problem across the region, not just in Jackson County. Yeah, but it's how Jackson County went about doing it. Okay? That's what happened.
I go back to my comment. They don't live in town.
Nope. And instead of working with legislators, writes the Star, in the county and in Jeff City, White has stubbornly refused to accept responsibility for the problem. And they add here, does anyone think that property appraisal problems will be fixed if Frank White is removed from office? No, and here's why, writes the Star. We don't know who the next county executive would be. Well, that's certainly a great reason to, I guess, never change your politicians. Well, we don't know who the next one's going to be, so out of fear for not knowing who the next one is going to be, we might as well stick with the incompetent guy we've got. That's basically the pitch from the Kansas City Star. You know, I think that Jackson County residents, in talking to them and actually dealing with this over the last 2+ years every single day, are smart enough to understand that, yes, they don't know who their next county executive is going to be. They are not sure on that. But it doesn't matter because they know that, frankly, nobody cannot be worse than Frank White. Having a judge pick the next county executive temporarily, which could be the end result here. I would say that's likely to be the end result here because I don't think the legislature is going to come together and select somebody because they all want to be the county executive. So it's probably going to be a judge who makes that pick. I don't believe that Jackson County residents are afraid of the unknown. And frankly, no pun intended, after all these years of Frank White, they should not be afraid of the unknown because the unknown is a heck of a lot better than what they've had, John.
Don't ask and answer your own question. If you've got an opinion, state it. I will state mine. Yes, I do think anybody will be better because that's going to be job one of that person.
Yeah.
And they better state that or they won't be in that job.
Yeah, that's a good point. On the text line, Pete, there were a lot of base runners at KC Monarchs games this year. Those guys need their butt slapped, too. Well, I'm telling you, Frank spent a lot more time with the Monarchs than he did in a 6-figure day job here with the county as the executive. That's a fact, okay? And for the Kansas City Star to not come around on the idea of recalling Frank White, man, what did Frank White do to them? How did Frank White get into their good graces? I don't believe this recall is going to be close. And I think that the Kansas City Star is going to show once again how out of touch they are with everyday Jackson County residents. When this thing overwhelmingly goes in favor of a recall of Frank White, and the Star's out there, you know, with their you-know-what in their hand, wondering how this happened. I know everyone's got the opinion. I know everyone's somewhat emotional coming out of last week, but I saw this clip yesterday, and I thought it was so disingenuous from Megyn Kelly. And I like Megyn Kelly. She was here in Kansas City doing her show with Tucker Carlson last year at T-Mobile Center. Met them both. I've enjoyed both of them for a long time. But I listened to this clip from Megyn Kelly yesterday in the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination, which we will get you updated on here right after the Megyn Kelly clip on KCMO in terms of what we know, what's going on, expected charges, potential court appearances today. Everything you need to know we'll get to here in a couple of minutes. But first, let's roll Megyn Kelly from her SiriusXM show yesterday. Let's go.
My husband was talking to me this morning and told me that Charlie's podcast has been off the charts this week. And we were both just kind of, lamenting. Like, he's number one in the charts. And he's not here to celebrate it. He can't. What an achievement. People are interested in him. They were interested in him before he died. But I will say, there's something, can I just say this is a petty moment? But it's really bothering me how Fox News is talking about Charlie like he was theirs, like he was one of theirs. Well, he wasn't. It's a lie. Just stop, okay? There were some people on Fox who I think really did like Charlie and got along with Charlie and were friends with Charlie. But Fox News, they wouldn't put Charlie on, okay? I know this from my own behind-the-scenes conversations, and I'm not going to specify from whom. But they were annoyed on Team Charlie because he was banned. They wouldn't put him on. He had been too supportive of Tucker. He was considered just other. They put him on in July to co-host Fox and Friends, which was a shock. They finally caught on to his magic, and they had him on Will Kane's show, I think, in August.
Just pause it right there. Megyn, who cares? Seriously, what are you doing?
Nobody cares.
Fox News is covering the story, knowing full well that millions of their viewers care about it. And obviously, there are many people at the network who had personal relationships with Charlie Kirk. Why are we going down this road? why are you going down the road of being divisive within your own team at a time where it's totally uncalled for and completely unnecessary? Were there executives at Fox that maybe didn't like Charlie? I don't know. That's her allegation and insinuation. A couple of anchors that maybe didn't like him. Okay. I mean, that's their prerogative too, right? But they're covering the story knowing full well that, first off, it's the biggest story in the world right now and has been the last few days. And it's especially of interest and importance to their audience. And they're covering it as such. And there's plenty of people at the network that obviously had a personal relationship with the guy. I mean, stop with the whole Fox is acting like he's one of ours. It's such an unnecessary thing to do at this point in time in the story. And at least she prefaced her comments by saying she was being petty. So there was a little self-awareness there. But Megyn Kelly going down this rabbit hole is completely unwarranted right now.
It says about her what she thinks about Fox.
Exactly.
It's about her and Fox.
Exactly.
It wasn't about Charlie.
Exactly, John. You're right. She's making it about herself and Fox and whatever beef she has left over with that, instead of just being like, you know what? We're all coming together right now. Unification's the word. Let's continue here with Megyn Kelly's commentary on this.
And prior to that, that's it. Years and years ago, 10 years ago. Yeah, okay. But it's just, all right, it's fine. You know, like, I'm not saying they shouldn't mourn Charlie's loss. It's just all I want to say is he was one of ours. He was someone who was an insurgent. He was in the digital lane. He was independent, fiercely independent. And while he was a rising star who would say yes to anyone, I mean, he was on everybody's podcast, doing the shows like Surrounded, going to the Oxford Union. It's funny because a lot of these things I've also been invited to do, but I say no to most of them because I'm not as into like appearing in public as Charlie was. And I really want to be present for my children who are at an age where they need their mom. I mean, at every age you need your mom, but you know what I'm saying. Charlie was ubiquitous in his appearances. Anyway, he was loving, forgiving, and would say yes to anyone. It's just he was independent. He built his own thing. He created his own platform. He rose to power on his own, notwithstanding the absence of help from a lot of these big platforms that did their level best to demonize Charlie and Turning Point.
Okay, that was Megyn Kelly yesterday. And, you know, she's talking about him being fiercely independent, which he was. Frankly, he was far more independent than Megyn Kelly, who was doing this show on Sirius XM radio. So it's like, why are we going down this road right now? Why is there this petty conversation on whether or not Charlie was one of Fox News' own, or whether or not he was independent enough to be considered a corporate media guy? It's completely irrelevant, and it's missing the point. And I don't think that's what Charlie would want the conversation about his life or his time on this earth as a political activist to be about. It's petty, it's in the weeds, it's splitting hairs, it doesn't matter. And I guess I give Megyn credit for at least acknowledging that she was being very petty in the commentary, but it doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help anything.
Yeah, I think the big message here is to guard against your thoughts here in a spirituality sense about what you're thinking about all of this, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's not about us or me. You know, it's about, Charlie, what you would have wanted, you know, to move on, to guard against your thoughts about hate, wishing ill will on your opponents, etc.
So I'm looking at this and I'm just saying to myself, you know what, Megyn, just drop it, okay? Talk about his legacy. Talk about the mark that he left on you and the medium and the movement. But splitting hairs as to whether or not he's a Fox person or not a Fox person or this person or that person, that's not how he would want to be remembered anyway. Now, as for the story itself, what do we know this morning here as we get it going after the 7 o'clock hour? The Utah County Attorney's Office told Fox that it's optimistic charges will be filed today against the individual. I know by now you probably know his name. I don't talk about him. I don't share his name. But, of course, the suspect in the assassination. The individual from Washington, Utah, was arrested and booked into the Utah County Jail last Friday. He's being held there without bail. And they anticipate filing formal charges today at 1 o'clock Central Time. So if charges are filed today, prosecutors said they will hold a press conference at 1 o'clock to explain the charges and the next steps that they're taking in the case. And the individual would then make his first court appearance virtually at 5 o'clock Eastern Time this afternoon, so 4 o'clock Central Time. So the Vince Show is on here from 11 to 2 on KCMO. So in the 1 o'clock hour, if the charges are filed today, which is right now what is expected, you want to make sure you're tuned into the Vince Show at 1 o'clock this afternoon to listen to the press conference from law enforcement where they will be discussing where these charges go from here and what is next in this investigation. So 1 o'clock hour today, Vince Show here on KCMO. Make sure you are locked in then. Coming up on KCMO Talk Radio after the O'Reilly update, the president and his team are all in on protecting something that I don't believe deserves any protection whatsoever. We'll tell you what that is next on KCMO. Breaking news, Robert Redford dead at the age of 89 years old. This news just breaking here as we've been in commercial break for the last couple of minutes. Robert Redford dead at the age of 89 years old. John, you got a favorite Robert Redford flick?
I think Butch Cassidy and his son Ned's Kid comes to mind first.
Yeah. All the President's Men may be up there as well. The Natural for me is up there. What about you, Mark?
That's another good one.
The Great Gatsby.
Yep.
The original.
Yep. There you go. This is interesting. I mean, I'm reading through this New York Times obituary. It's amazing. It's like they had this thing written for years at this point. There are a lot of companies that do that, a lot of these outfits.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
sometimes they accidentally get released.
Yeah, that's happened before. You're right. So Robert Redford, born August 18th, 1936 in Santa Monica, California. Early in his career, 20th Century Fox publicists officially placed Mr. Redford's birth at 1937, a falsehood that was repeated oftentimes over the years. It's got to be weird. You're one of the most famous people in Hollywood, and for decades they were getting your birth date wrong. It's just strange. But he was born August 18th of 36. So at 89 years old, Robert Redford is dead. Now, as I teased right before the break here on KCMO, the president and his team are for some reason hell-bent on getting TikTok away from ByteDance, the parent company that is directly or indirectly, depending on who you ask and who you want to believe, owned in part by the Chinese Communist Party. They think that it will be a big win for their political party if Trump can be the guy that saves TikTok. And I think they're making a major mistake. What we should be doing with TikTok is banning it. What we should be doing is getting out of the business of TikTok in this country. But yesterday, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent came out and said, no, we've got a framework of a deal with TikTok. Here's what he said.
We have a framework for a TikTok deal. The two leaders, President Trump and Party Chair Xi, will speak on Friday to complete the deal. But we do have a framework for a deal with TikTok.
Now, hold on. I've been told by people that TikTok is not controlled by the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. So why is China's President Xi part of the deal here? We need to get out of the business of TikTok. If you care about young people and their vote, trying to save TikTok is maybe like a short-term Band-Aid at best. But when the propaganda and the algorithms are as such, and you know it's not going to change from TikTok, you know that this stuff that has been just a moral rot on this country since it came into America from China has not been good for our society as a whole. It hasn't been. I mean, and there's a lot of reporting on this, that TikTok in China is used educationally for its young kids. Here in the U.S., it's like, all right, how many young boys can we turn into young girls is what it turns into here in America, John.
Jump out of a running vehicle and run alongside.
Yes, exactly right. Now, I'm not naive enough to think that getting rid of TikTok suddenly solves all our moral issues that we're facing here. There's plenty of other social media platforms that will gladly pick up the mantle. But when you have TikTok, which has been by far the worst of the worst, that has been at least indirectly overseen by our worst global enemy, just get rid of it.
Yeah, what could go wrong, huh?
I mean, just get rid of it already. Move on from TikTok. I know some people will say, well, then the American big tech companies will take over and have more power. Okay, at least they're based here in the United States. And I know there's only so much regulation we can do. But if you view China for what they are, and that is our greatest enemy on the planet, that is a country that obviously wants to take over from the United States as the greatest global superpower, and you don't think that TikTok is basically being used as a widespread foreign psyop, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's very evident to me that's exactly what's going on, and it's arguably done more damage to our society than any war. And the people in charge are like, don't worry, we're going to save TikTok for you, kiddos. Vote for us. No. And while, Charlie Kirk videos are all over TikTok, and he knew that that's where he had to go to change the hearts and minds of young people, if you are to use what Charlie Kirk represented, if you are to use what he promoted, and that is to young people, get married, start a family, and your life will change. And by the way, with that, your voting will likely change too. Just saying. The way to do that is not to give people their little dangly carrot. It's not to give them their drug, their dopamine shot that they desperately need on TikTok. It's trying to figure out a way to get this corrosive stuff out of our culture. And I do think that is one thing that our government has a responsibility to do, especially when you have these operations being run from overseas foreign powers who want to directly or indirectly, over a short or long period of time, take us down and take us out. And that's exactly what China wants to do. And I think that Scott Bessent and President Trump on this one are failing to see the forest through the trees here, John.
To your point, it doesn't end it, but we can certainly turn down the amplification.
Yes, it doesn't end it, but it definitely turns it down. And it turns it down from one of the platforms that is the worst of the worst in turning that temperature up, dividing, and driving American kids whose parents largely aren't paying attention into the arms of some really dangerous ideology. Jonathan in Kansas City, what do you got for me, my man? Good morning.
Good morning. This talk about political division, we've had it for a while, and I don't know what the hope is for it, and I don't think it matters which side or which party's in charge. I'll give you a quick example. When I was driving for Uber, I had a passenger who simply asked, hey, what are some, podcasts or whatever you listen to? And very simple question. I said, I listed a couple. One of them was Ben Shapiro, he's a mainstream conservative. A lot of people on the right say he's not right of center enough. And afterward, a couple minutes afterward, after the ride ended, I got a report for harassment, which, generally that's, when you're, commenting on someone's appearance or making them uncomfortable with inappropriate remarks. Nothing of the sort I did. It was simply because I'm pretty sure it's because, she thought it was harassment for me to tell her what that I listened to his show. And I guess at the end, before she left, she told me, well, he's very chauvinistic with women. And I'm like, okay. So after that, I learned anytime somebody asks political questions or like what you listen to or whatever, and I had a couple other passengers ask me, I would say, we don't talk about that. They're like, well, why not? Because I said, well, because if it's the right side, we'll have a great ride. But if it's the wrong side, then, you can cancel me. And I don't know what side you are. So, it doesn't really matter. The sides don't talk to each other anymore.
That's too bad. Thank you for that, Jonathan. That's
she's a real beauty.
That sounds like a real winner that you had to drive there. I appreciate that. But listen, I think you're onto something there. There are too many people who don't have any interest in even hearing about podcasts that somebody on the other side listens to. It's like,
that's a microaggression.
I don't know how you fix that, right? I just know this much. And this is something that Bill Maher noted over the weekend, and we played the audio yesterday. One side is far more interested in talking to their political opponents than the other.
You know, the right-wingers say what you want about them, but they talk to you. They're not into this leftist think. The left really has much more of a, I don't talk to you, I don't want to deal with you, you're deplorable.
That was Bill Maher calling it like it is over the weekend, so good on him. But I think, listen, if you lean right, you keep conversing, you keep going out there, you keep having the conversations willingly with people that disagree with you. I mean, reasonable conversations, not debates, conversations. And you hope that over the long haul, you win over hearts and minds. That's the play. Someone who's not having conversations these days, who's not interested in conversation or getting asked questions, is Travis Kelce. So Travis Kelce has had a rough start to the season. After we were told all offseason he's in the best shape he's been in years. Oh, man, look at this guy. He's not drinking any garage beer. Oh, man, he's going to be awesome. Well, let's see. Took out his teammate in week 1, Xavier Worthy. Ran into him. He took the blame. His fault. Week 2, he drops what would have been the go-ahead touchdown pass that, of course, led to an Eagles score and arguably lost him the game.
Didn't just drop it.
Yeah, got intercepted.
Volleyed it over.
Yeah, good point. So where's Travis Kelce? And then on top of that, he wears a T-shirt for Rashee Rice saying free 4. Rashee Rice is number 4. He's serving a 6-game suspension right now because last year he drove a car 120 miles an hour on the freeway in Dallas, and he caused a 6-car pileup that, thank God, didn't result in anybody getting killed, but did result in multiple injuries. Travis Kelce does not go to the podium on Sunday. He did not address the media yesterday. So instead, Travis Kelce is going to do his own little press conference on his little podcast that only is as popular as it is because of who his fiance is. Let's be honest. That's cute. Is that leadership? Patrick Mahomes had to stand at the podium on Sunday night and take the blame himself for Travis Kelce's tipped interception. That's what a leader does. That's what a man does. He stands up there. He takes the heat, even when it's not convenient, even when he knows he's going to get some blame. And Travis Kelce is hiding. Travis Kelce can't stand in front of the podium in front of the Kansas City sports media. Are you kidding me? It's not the New York sports media, okay? It's the Kansas City sports media. They tiptoe around a lot of stuff. You can't face that heat, bro. Really? That is weak from Travis Kelce. That is not leadership, and that stuff gets noticed in the locker room. Are you shocked by this report in the Wall Street Journal yesterday? This is going to stun you. I know. President Biden's having a tough time cashing in on his presidency.
Talk about a bombshell.
Can't believe it. Color me shocked. Well, no one wants to book him. You mean people don't want to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to hear Joe Biden speak? The guy can't talk. And you would have to pay Joe Biden to speak for your Fortune 500 company or your nonprofit organization or your political action committee or something like that? What would you be paying for exactly? The image of what Joe Biden once was when he was Barack Obama's vice president? What exactly would you give him a massive check to do? Walk up on stage, deliver a few comments, and then try to figure out how to get off the stage? Remember that? What, he'd start pointing his fingers around?
Great. I would love to have a stand-up cut out of Biden and put it on a Roomba.
Oh, that's outstanding.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Oh, that would be so good, man. So, like, what do you...
Bumper Biden so you could get 2 or 3 of them and just let them crash into each other.
What would you be paying for here? The Wall Street Journal reports that companies are reluctant to hire the former president as a paid speaker due to his unpopularity and fear of retribution from Trump. Now, I think the latter is just an excuse. I really do. I mean, don't get me wrong. Trump can be very petty, okay? We all know that about Trump. He can be wildly petty. He can get in the mud. He doesn't mind slinging it around. That's who he is. You're not going to treat that or, change that about Donald Trump. It's just not going to happen. But the notion that these companies are not hiring Joe Biden to speak because of fear of retribution from Trump, that's a convenient excuse. That's what that is. All right? That's like when you break up with your girlfriend at 16 and you say, my parents really don't like the relationship. That's what it is.
Yeah.
My parents don't approve of this relationship.
We need to get this info to Trump so he can come out on a press conference and go, by all means.
Yeah.
You go right on ahead.
That's what, yes. Someone's got to ask, hey, Peter Doocy.
Yeah.
Memo to Peter Doocy today. Can you please ask President Trump about the Wall Street Journal report this morning that says that companies are afraid to hire Joe Biden to speak because of fear of retribution? What would you say to that? And the president should come out and he should say, Joe should speak as often as he wants. Whenever you want to talk, Joe.
He's got my blessing.
Trust me. The more Joe's out there in public, actually, the better it is for Trump, right? Because in politics, it's a binary sport. It's not about who the perfect person is. It's about who's better than the other guy or the other gal. It's really, that's it. You just have to be better than your opponent. And as time goes on, well, it heals a lot of wounds in life and in politics and in sports and in everything. That's just true about time. It heals a lot of wounds. So in 2024, there were people who were like, maybe Trump wasn't so bad. And then by 2028, some people are going to be like, not many, but there'll be some out there who are like, maybe Biden wasn't so bad, just because that's human nature. It's how we all operate. Trust me, think about it if you take a new job. Suddenly you're like, well, there were things about the old job maybe I didn't like, but they weren't that bad. But then you forget about when you were in that last job and you hated showing up to work every single day. It's human nature. It's the same thing here. So Trump's got to come out. He's got to do it today. And he's got to say, Joe, I want you to get all the speaking engagements you can get. I want to see you make all the money you can get. I am all in. I will not hold it against any company that has Joe Biden as a paid speaker. All right? I'm all in, John.
Yeah, the only thing I think he might be qualified for is to endorse Choco Choco Chip, right? Or maybe some type of men's razor to shave your legs for triathletes or stuff. He's got the hairy legs.
Oh, that would be great. Oh, my
Other
goodness.
than that, I can't think of a lot that he could speak well in.
I don't think so, man. I don't think they...
People are aroused. I haven't seen people so aroused in a very, very long time.
I think you're onto something with that, though. I think you're right. So we'll just have
At
to
a bike
say...
store, but I don't want the guy near me.
No. Right. Knee pads? I don't know. What are we thinking here?
There.
So he's not falling off the bike? I mean, there's a lot of options here, I suppose.
Get your Joe Biden helmet.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness gracious. That's too much. Well, Trump is taking a few questions here outside of the White House as he gets set for a UK state visit today. So if anything newsworthy comes out of that, I gotta reach out to Doocy on this. I got to get this question in as quickly as I possibly can. Let me see here. Do I have his number? No, I got his old man's number. Reach out to Steve. Hey, can you pass this on to Peter for me?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do that. I don't know.
Well, I think it's worth noting.
Yeah. I'll just tell Steve, hey, can you tell Peter to pop this into the big guy here today if you have some time for me, please? Oh, my goodness gracious.